Welcome to Tainted Trusts, where broken loyalty, hidden betrayal, and poisonous promises are brought into the light. Here, every story reveals the truth behind toxic relationships, family secrets, and the quiet path toward justice. Listen closely, because trust is fragile, but revenge remembers. The first time I saw the red sold sign in front of my late wife's house, I thought grief had finally learned how to hallucinate. I had driven there after work with a grocery bag on the passenger seat, oat milk for my daughter Emily, rosemary crackers my wife used to buy, and a cheap bunch of white tulips because June had loved white flowers even when she said they looked like apologies. The old farmhouse sat at the end of Millstone Road, half hidden behind maple trees and a split-rail fence. June had inherited it from her grandmother, restored it with her own hands, and written in her will that it was to remain in trust for Emily until she turned 25. But now a glossy realtor sign leaned in the yard like a knife in soil. Sold. I parked too fast, gravel snapping beneath the tires. For a second I just sat there, both hands glued to the steering wheel, trying to make the letters rearrange themselves into something less impossible. Maybe it was the neighboring lot. Maybe the realtor was careless. Maybe I had mistaken the address, even though I had watched June paint the porch railings blue while Emily toddled barefoot through the grass. Then I noticed the front door was open. A young couple stood inside the entryway, laughing with a man in a navy blazer. The man turned, saw me on the porch, and immediately stopped smiling. "Can I help you?" he asked. "You can tell me why you're standing in my daughter's house." The couple went silent. The realtor blinked as if I had interrupted a performance. He introduced himself as Mark Tellys from Bridgeview Realty and said the closing had happened that morning. Clean title. Cash buyer. No liens, no complications. "That's impossible," I said. "The property is in a trust. My daughter is the beneficiary, I'm the trustee." His polite mask cracked. He opened his folder and showed me a photocopy of documents bearing my signature. Not a bad signature, not a scribble, mine. My name curved across the page with the tired slant I developed after years signing hospital forms during June's chemotherapy. Beneath it was a notarized trustee consent authorizing the sale. The document stated that proceeds would be deposited into an educational account for Emily. I felt the world tilt. "Where is the money?" I asked. Mark swallowed. "Sir, I can't discuss disbursement details with someone who isn't the seller. I am the trustee." His eyes lowered to the paper again. "According to this, you resigned last month." That was when my phone rang. My brother Aaron's name flashed on the screen. I answered without speaking. He sighed like he had been waiting for the call. "Daniel, before you explode, you need to understand something. I did what June would have wanted." The old house creaked behind me. The young couple whispered. The tulips in my grocery bag sagged in the June heat. "What did you do?" I asked. The porch boards under my shoes had been replaced by June after a storm split the old ones. I remembered holding the flashlight while she worked past midnight, stubbornly refusing to pay a contractor for something she could learn herself. That memory made the strangers inside hurt worse. They were not just entering a building. They were walking through the evidence of her hands. Aaron's voice went soft, almost kind. "I saved Emily from your grief." Aaron had always known how to turn cruelty into concern. When we were kids, he could break a lamp, cry first, and somehow I would be the one apologizing. Our mother called him sensitive. Our father called him strategic when he thought we couldn't hear. I called him Aaron because giving a name to what he was felt dangerous. After June died, Aaron became useful in all the ways grief makes predators look like saints. He brought casseroles we never ate. He drove Emily to school when I could not get out of bed. He sat beside me at the funeral home while I chose a casket and whispered, "Don't worry about paperwork. I'll help with everything." I believed him because I was exhausted, because Emily was 11 and waking up screaming, because every room in our house contained one object June had touched last, and I kept finding myself staring at those objects like they might explain why she was gone. Aaron took advantage of that fog. On the phone outside the farmhouse, his voice had the calm rhythm of a pastor delivering bad news. "You weren't functioning, Dan, you know that. Bills were late. Insurance was a mess. Emily missed 2 dentist appointments. The trust needed someone steady. So you forged my resignation. Don't use dramatic words. Did you forge my signature?" A pause. In that pause, I heard every childhood lie, every borrowed dollar never returned, Every family dinner where he smiled while our mother praised him for cleaning up disasters he had created. "You signed a lot of things after June passed," he said. "Maybe you don't remember. There it was. The first stone in the wall he planned to build around me. Grief made me unreliable. Grief made me forgetful. Grief made me dangerous." If I pushed back, he would point to the months when I had cried in the laundry room because June's sweater still smelled faintly of vanilla soap. "Where's Emily's money?" I asked. "Protected." "Where?" "In an investment vehicle." "What investment?" He exhaled sharply. "A development group is buying distressed rural properties. The farmhouse was sitting empty. Taxes were rising. Maintenance was draining value. I converted a dead asset into growth. It was her mother's home. It was wood and rot." I almost dropped the phone. Behind me, the young couple came out onto the porch with the realtor. The woman looked embarrassed, clutching a binder to her chest. The man avoided my eyes. They were not villains. They had bought a dream, unaware it had been stolen from a child. Aaron continued. "Listen to me carefully. If you challenge this, the trust records will show you we're unstable. I have emails, texts, witnesses. I have Mom. I have Uncle Ray. Nobody wants Emily tied to a house full of death. You sold my wife's house. I protected the family. You mean you protected yourself?" For the first time, his voice hardened. "Be very careful, little brother. You have no idea how many people already agree with me." The line went dead. I stood on June's porch, while strangers locked the door with a new key. The sound was small, metallic, final. That night, Emily asked why I came home without the tulips. I told her I forgot them in the car. I replayed the call after Emily went to bed, not because I wanted to suffer, but because Aaron's tone contained instructions. Every pause was placed. Every accusation arrived wrapped in patience. He was already building a witness statement, and I had been trained since childhood to mistake his rehearsals for emotions. It was the first lie I had told my daughter since her mother died, and I hated Aaron for making it necessary. My mother called it a family meeting. Aaron called it an intervention. I called it an ambush the moment I stepped into her living room and saw everyone sitting in a half circle. Mom had set out coffee, lemon cookies, and a box of tissues as if grief were an event requiring refreshments. Aaron sat near the fireplace with his wife Melissa, her hand placed on his knee like she was holding down a noble man under attack. Uncle Ray leaned against the bookcase. Aunt Carol avoided looking at me. Even June's younger sister, Paige, was there, pale and nervous, twisting her wedding ring. Emily was not invited. Thank God. "Daniel," Mom began, "we love you." That sentence has never once ended well. I remained standing. "Where is the money from the sale?" Aaron rubbed his forehead. "This is exactly what we mean. You come in angry, accusatory. You forged trust documents." Melissa gasped. Mom flinched. Uncle Ray muttered my name like a warning. Aaron looked hurt, which was always his favorite costume. "I did not forge anything. You signed the trustee transition when we were sorting June's files." Paige witnessed the conversation. My eyes moved to Paige. Her face collapsed inward. "Danny, I remember papers. I don't remember exactly what they were. Did I resign as trustee?" She looked at Aaron before answering. That was enough. "Daniel," Mom said sharply, "your brother has carried this family while you disappeared into yourself. My wife died, and we all suffered, but Emily needs stability. Aaron offered that." I laughed once, but nothing about it was funny. "Aaron sold her inheritance without telling her. He reinvested it," Melissa said. Her voice had the polished confidence of someone who married into our dysfunction and learned quickly where the power lived. "The development partnership will triple the money within 5 years. Emily will thank him someday." "What's the name of the partnership?" Silence. Aaron flexed. "What's the name, Aaron? You're not entitled to details while you're behaving like this." "I am legally entitled to every detail if my daughter's trust was altered." Mom stood, tiny and furious. "You are not listening. June loved Aaron. She trusted him. She knew you were fragile even before the illness. That one found bone. Before June got sick, I had struggled through a year of anxiety after losing my job at the county records office. Aaron had never forgiven me for needing help, because needing help stole attention from him. Now he had rewritten that year into evidence of permanent weakness. "June chose me as trustee," I said. "Not Aaron, me." Aaron leaned forward. "June chose you before she knew what grief would do to you." The room went still. I realized then that this had been rehearsed. Every face held a line they had practiced. Concern, pity, disappointment. They were not deciding whether Aaron was wrong. They were deciding how to make me accept it. "I want copies of everything," I said. "No," Aaron replied. "Then I'll get a lawyer." Mom's mouth tightened. "With what money?" It was so quick, so cruel that even Melissa glanced down. I had drained savings, keeping June comfortable after insurance denied 2 treatments. Aaron knew that. Everyone knew that. I looked around the room and understood something colder than betrayal. They had not merely believed Aaron. They had chosen the version of the story that asked the least from them. At the door, Paige followed me into the hall. "Danny," she whispered. There was a second binder. June kept it somewhere safe. She told me if anything felt wrong, I should tell you about the blue envelope. "Where is it?" Paige shook her head, eyes wet. "I don't know. Aaron asked me the same thing last week." Even the seating had meaning. Aaron near the fireplace, warmth behind him. Mom in the center, tissues within reach. Me standing by the door like the problem that had just entered. When families become courts, they rarely admit a verdict was written before anyone swore to tell the truth. Then she shut the door behind me, leaving me outside with the only honest thing anyone had said all night. I searched our house until sunrise. June had believed in hiding important things in ordinary places. Cash inside flower canisters. Passport copies taped behind picture frames. Spare keys under labels in the junk drawer because, as she once told me, thieves look for secrets, not boredom. The blue envelope was nowhere obvious. I checked her desk first. Then the cedar chest at the foot of our bed. Then boxes of Christmas ornaments, cookbooks, the attic crawlspace, the glove compartment of her old Subaru. Every object reopened a wound. Her gardening gloves still held the shape of her fingers. Her scarf fell from a closet shelf and carried the faintest trace of her perfume. By 5 in the morning, I was sitting on the laundry room floor, surrounded by things that had outlived her. Emily found me there. She wore June's oversized college sweatshirt and held a glass of water. At 12, she had learned to move quietly around grief, which was the first thing Aaron had stolen from her before the house. "Dad," she said, "what are you looking for?" I wanted to protect her. I wanted to tell her grown-up problems were being handled. But every adult in my family had used protection as a prettier word for control. So I told her the truth. Not all of it, not the forged signature or the missing money, but enough. "Your uncle sold Mom's farmhouse. I don't think he had the right to. Mom may have left instructions somewhere." Paige mentioned a blue envelope. Emily sat beside me without crying. That worried me more than tears. "Uncle Aaron told Grandma you were going to waste it," she said. My stomach tightened. "When did he say that?" "Last Sunday, when Grandma took me for lunch. She thought I was in the bathroom, but I came back for my phone. Uncle Aaron said if you got control of the farmhouse, you would sell it cheap to pay old hospital bills. He said Mom didn't trust you near money." I closed my eyes. June, who once screamed at a billing supervisor for calling me irresponsible because I challenged a coding error. June, who placed the trust documents in my hand and said, "I trust you because you love Emily more than being right." "He lied," I said. "I know." Her certainty nearly broke me. Then she stood and went to the pantry. She pulled down June's old recipe tin, the one shaped like a red barn. Inside were handwritten cards stained with oil and cinnamon. Emily removed every card, one by one, until she reached the bottom. Taped beneath the tin was a key. "Mom showed me this before she got really sick," Emily whispered. "She said it was for the place where she kept thunderstorm things." I thought she meant candles. Thunderstorm things. June's phrase for documents you hope you never need, but keep ready because weather changes. The key was small, brass, marked with the number 17. Not a house key, not a mailbox key, a deposit box key. By 9 that morning, I was standing inside First County Bank with Emily beside me, asking to access box 17 under June Harper Reed's name. The clerk checked records, frowned, and disappeared into an office. When she returned, a bank manager walked with her. "Mr. Reed," he said carefully, "that box was accessed 3 weeks ago." "By who?" He hesitated. "By your brother, Aaron Reed." He presented power of attorney paperwork. Emily grabbed my hand. The manager slid a log across the desk. Aaron's signature sat on the access line. Above it was a note, "Contents removed." But June had always expected storms. When the manager went to copy the log, Emily pointed under the counter, where a thin blue corner protruded from behind the deposit box cart. The envelope had fallen where Aaron had missed it. On the front, in June's handwriting, were 6 words. The bank manager kept saying policy, procedure, authorization. Those words usually comfort people. That morning, they sounded like curtains being pulled over a crime. Emily watched his face with an attention that frightened me. Childhood should not include learning which adults are embarrassed by truth and which are afraid of liability. Danny, trust no one who rushes you. We opened the envelope in the car because I could not wait one more minute inside a building that had let Aaron walk out with my wife's secrets. Inside were 3 things: a letter, a flash drive, and a certified copy of an amendment to Emily's trust. My hands shook so badly that Emily had to read the first line aloud. Danny, if you are holding this, someone is trying to make you doubt what I chose. June's handwriting was neat even when the cancer made her fingers ache. She wrote like every word deserved dignity. The letter explained that she had created a duplicate packet because Aaron had become too interested in her estate during the final months. He had offered to simplify things, asked how hard it was to remove a trustee, joked that widowers often made emotional decisions. I remembered those jokes. I had laughed because I was trying to keep peace at a dinner table where June barely ate. The trust amendment was dated 2 months before she died. It did not remove me. It strengthened my role. It stated that if any person attempted to pressure, replace, bypass, or defame me as trustee, that person would be permanently barred from managing, borrowing against, purchasing, or profiting from any property held for Emily. June had named Aaron specifically. Emily read his name and went very still. Mom knew. She suspected, and nobody listened. There are questions children ask that adults cannot survive honestly. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop when we got home. It held scanned documents, emails, and a video file labeled "For Danny if Aaron pushes." I clicked it. June appeared on screen thinner than I wanted to remember, wrapped in a blue blanket, sitting in the farmhouse kitchen. The afternoon sun lit the side of her face. She smiled, but not for comfort. This was June at her sharpest, the woman who once negotiated down a contractor by reading building code aloud until he surrendered. Danny, she said, pause this if Emily is in the room. I did not pause it. Emily leaned closer. June took a breath. Aaron asked me to make him co-trustee again today. When I said no, he told me grief changes men. He said you were too gentle to protect anything from creditors, cousins, or yourself. I want this recorded clearly. I trust you. I do not trust Aaron. Not with money, not with paperwork, not with our daughter. Emily's face crumpled then, silently, as if the sound had been taken out of her. June continued. There is a camera in the farmhouse office, the little brass clock on the bookshelf. Aaron doesn't know it records motion. I installed it after prescription pills went missing during family visits. Check the memory card if something happens to the files. I remembered the brass clock. June loved ugly clocks and insisted every room needed one. The farmhouse had new owners now. The office could already be cleaned out, the clock boxed, thrown away, destroyed. I called Mark Tellys, the realtor, and asked for the buyer's number. He refused at first, citing privacy. Then I told him the sale might involve forged trust documents and that his brokerage could be pulled into litigation. He gave me the number in less than a minute. The buyer, a woman named Sarah, listened without interrupting. When I described the brass clock, she said, "The old office still has shelves full of stuff. We haven't touched that room yet." I nearly collapsed from relief. "Please," I said, "do not let anyone else inside before I get there, especially not my brother." Sarah went quiet. "A man called this morning," she said. "He said he was family and wanted to pick up a few sentimental items. We told him tomorrow." After the video ended, the kitchen felt too quiet, as if the house itself had been listening with us. I wanted to apologize to June for every time I had called Aaron difficult instead of dangerous. But apologies to the dead have nowhere to land unless you turn them into action. Aaron was already coming back to bury the last witness. Sarah met us at the farmhouse with a baseball bat in her hand and apology in her eyes. Her husband, Luke, stood behind her on the porch, arms crossed, looking less like a buyer and more like a man who regretted every signature he had made in the past 24 hours. They had no idea the house was contested. They had no idea a dead woman's trust had been bent around their dream. "We're not letting anyone take anything," Sarah said. "Not until this is sorted." I thanked her so many times it became embarrassing. The office smelled exactly as it had when June was alive: paper, dust, and lemon oil. The bookshelves still held her gardening manuals, local history volumes, and tax binders labeled in her narrow script. On the second shelf sat the brass clock, ugly as ever, shaped like a miniature lighthouse. Emily reached for it, then stopped. "You do it," she said. I turned it over. A tiny panel slid open near the base, revealing a microSD card. My knees weakened. We played it on Sarah's laptop at the kitchen table. The first files were ordinary: June entering with tea, me searching for a stapler, Emily doing homework on the rug. Then the date jumped to 4 weeks after June died. Aaron entered the office. Not grieving, not hesitant, efficient. He carried a leather folder and wore blue latex gloves. Emily inhaled sharply. The footage showed him opening drawers, photographing documents, removing files from June's cabinet. He found the trust binder, flipped through it, and cursed loud enough for the small microphone to catch. "Damn you, June." Then he placed another document on the desk and began practicing my signature. Again, again, again. There are moments when rage becomes too large for the body and turns cold, because heat would kill you. I watched my brother copy my name 15 times while my daughter sat beside me, seeing exactly what greed looked like when it wore a familiar face. The next file showed Aaron returning with Melissa. She stood near the doorway whispering, "If he fights, we say he signed while medicated. Mom will back us. Ray too. Paige is weak. She'll fold." Aaron laughed. "Danny doesn't fight, he absorbs. That's what makes him useful." Emily pushed away from the table and ran outside. I wanted to follow, but Sarah touched my arm. "There's more." The final clip was from the night before the bank visit. Aaron entered with a key and removed a blue envelope from the desk drawer. He opened it, read June's letter, and went pale. Then he took out his phone. The camera caught his screen reflected faintly in the office window. Not enough to read everything, but enough to see a name at the top of the call log. Judge Malcolm Voss, Uncle Ray's golfing partner, a retired probate judge, the man who had notarized the trustee resignation. Aaron spoke softly, but the microphone caught pieces. "She made a duplicate. No, I don't know where. If Daniel finds it, we're all exposed. You said the seal would be enough." Sarah covered her mouth. "Luke said what none of us could. This isn't just family drama. No, it was fraud, conspiracy, elder manipulation, theft from a minor, and something even uglier. A whole circle of adults deciding my daughter's future was easier to steal than earn." Outside, I found Emily by the maple tree where June had hung a swing years before. "I want him to know we saw it," she said. "Not yet." Her eyes looked older than 12. "Then I want everyone else to see it first." Sarah cried once, quickly, then wiped her face as if tears were a delay she could not afford. Luke made copies of the footage on 2 drives and wrote the time on masking tape. Strangers had become more careful with June's truth than my own family had been with her child. For the first time since June died, I smiled like I meant it. The best lawyer in town refused my call twice. On the 3rd try, I left a message with only 6 words. "June Harper Reed, blue envelope, Aaron." 7 minutes later, Lydia Crane called back. Lydia had represented June years earlier in a workplace discrimination case against the county hospital. She was 60, brilliant, and rumored to make insurance attorneys cry in conference rooms. June once said Lydia did not argue. She performed surgery on lies. "Do you still have the original trust file?" Lydia asked after I summarized everything. Aaron took the bank box contents, but June left certified copies and video. "Do not send anything by email. Do not text your brother. Do not accuse anyone in writing. Bring the documents to my office. Bring the memory card. Bring Emily if she can handle sitting quietly. She has already seen too much." Lydia's voice softened. "Then let her see adults respond correctly for once." We arrived that afternoon. Lydia watched every clip without interrupting. Her face did not change when Aaron practiced my signature. It did not change when Melissa described the plan. It did not change when Judge Voss's name appeared. Only when June's recorded message played did Lydia remove her glasses. "Your wife was very smart," she said. "Smart enough to marry badly into my family. Smart enough to know love sometimes makes honest people slow." She laid out the path. Emergency injunction to freeze any proceeds. Notice of contested sale. Complaint against Aaron, Melissa, the notary, and any financial entity holding the funds. Report to the State Trust Oversight Division. Criminal referral if the court found probable cause. "Can we get the house back?" Emily asked. Lydia turned fully toward her, which I appreciated. Adults often answered children by looking at their parents. Maybe, if the buyers acted in good faith, the court will protect them too. But fraud poisons a transaction. At minimum, we can freeze the money and recover damages. We can also ask the court to restore the trust and remove everyone involved. Emily nodded like she was taking notes in her bones. Then Lydia asked the question I dreaded. Who else helped him? I named my mother Uncle Ray, Paige reluctantly, the bank manager Mark Telly's Judge Voss. Lydia wrote every name. Paige may be more witness than accomplice, she said. Fearful people often sign the wrong side of silence. I thought of Paige's trembling hands. Aaron pressured her. Good, pressure leaves patterns, we'll find them. By evening, Lydia had drafted the first petition. She also did something I did not expect. She called Bridgeview Realty and the buyer's closing attorney, then placed the call on speaker. Her voice became velvet wrapped around steel. This is notice that the sale of 441 Millstone Road is contested due to suspected forged trustee authority and fraudulent conveyance involving a minor beneficiary. If any funds move after this call, I will name every party who touched them. Govern yourselves accordingly. I had never heard silence sound so expensive. When we left, Emily asked if Mom would be proud. Yes, I said, but she'd also be furious. At Uncle Aaron. At me, for waiting so long to fight. Emily shook her head. No, Mom knew you would fight when it mattered. She made the video for that version of you. That night, Aaron sent one text. You have no idea what you're about to destroy. For the first time, I did not answer. I forwarded it to Lydia. She replied with 3 words. Lydia's office walls were lined with framed judgments, but the only decoration Emily noticed was a chipped mug full of sharpened pencils. She whispered that Mom used to sharpen pencils before paying bills because it made numbers feel beatable. Lydia heard and quietly pushed the mug toward her. Let him panic. My mother arrived the next morning with a casserole and a threat. She stood on my porch wearing pearls, cardigan, and the expression she used at church when someone else's child embarrassed the family. The casserole was chicken and rice, Aaron's favorite, which told me everything before she spoke. Invite me in, she said. Not today. Her eyes sharpened. Daniel, don't be childish. There it was again, my assigned role. Aaron could steal a house, forge a trust, manipulate a grieving family, and he was stressed. I could refuse entry and I was childish. She looked past me into the hallway. Where is Emily? At school. Good, she shouldn't see you like this. I leaned against the doorframe. Like what? Vindictive, unstable, obsessed with punishing your brother, because he made a hard decision you couldn't make. The words were too polished. Aaron's script, spoken in our mother's voice. Did you know he forged my signature? Her lips pressed together. I know you signed things you don't remember. Did you know June recorded him practicing my signature? For one beautiful second, her certainty cracked. Then she recovered. Videos can be misunderstood. He wore gloves. She looked down at the casserole. I wondered when she first decided Aaron's survival mattered more than truth. Maybe when he was born premature and everyone called him a miracle. Maybe when Dad died and Aaron cried louder than I did. Maybe when I became the child who managed feelings while he became the child who created them. Mom, I said quietly, why are you protecting him? Her face changed. Not guilt, anger. Because someone has to protect this family from you tearing it apart. He stole from Emily. He made a mistake. He planned it. And what do you want? Prison, your brother ruined. Melissa humiliated, me dragged through court. Do you think June would want that? June's name in her mouth felt obscene. June wrote that Aaron should never control Emily's trust. She wrote it before she died. My mother's eyes filled with tears, but they were not for June. They were for the story she was losing. Your brother has debts, she whispered. Finally, the basement door opened. What debts? She wiped her cheek with a trembling finger. Business debts, personal loans, people calling. He was desperate, so he sold my daughter's inheritance. He intended to pay it back. Every thief in history has loved that sentence. How much? She shook her head. How much, Mom? I don't know exactly. How much? She looked suddenly old. Nearly 400,000. The farmhouse sold for 680. I understood then. Aaron had not reinvested Emily's money. He had used it to plug holes, buy time, silence whoever owned him. The development partnership was likely vapor. You knew, I said. I knew he was drowning, and Emily was the life raft. She slapped me, not hard enough to hurt, hard enough to reveal herself. We stared at each other. the porch between us and my childhood dying quietly in the space. "Get off my property," I said. Her mouth opened, but no command came out. She set the casserole on the porch, as if it were evidence of love, and walked back to her car. I left it there until sunset. After she drove away, I stood in the doorway longer than I should have. A good son would have chased her, some old voice insisted. But I was beginning to understand that being good in my family had too often meant volunteering to be harmed quietly. Then I threw it in the trash, dish and all. Lydia found the money trail faster than Aaron expected, because arrogance makes criminals lazy. The sale proceeds had not gone to an educational account. They had been routed through a newly created limited liability company called Millstone Growth Partners. The registered agent was a mailbox rental service 2 towns over. The managing member was Melissa's cousin. The operating agreement listed Aaron as strategic advisor, which sounded clean, until Lydia pulled bank records through an emergency subpoena. Within 48 hours of closing, $400,000 had been wired to a private lender in New Jersey. $90,000 went toward Melissa's boutique renovation. $50,000 paid off Aaron's truck loan. $30,000 vanished into cash withdrawals. Emily's trust account received $500. $500. When Lydia showed me the ledger, the numbers blurred. Not because they were complicated, but because they were insulting. Aaron had not even bothered to pretend well. He had thrown crumbs into my daughter's future and expected the family to praise him for feeding her. "We go to court Monday," Lydia said. "Emergency hearing. The judge will decide whether to freeze remaining assets and issue temporary orders." Judge Voss, retired, but he notarized the contested document, so I included him in the complaint. The assigned judge is Maren Holt. She does not enjoy theatrics. That was unfortunate for Aaron, whose life depended on them. Sunday night, he came to my house. Not alone. Melissa stayed in the car while he walked up the driveway carrying a folder. He looked thinner, eyes ringed with sleeplessness, but still handsome in the way that fooled bank managers and mothers. He smiled when I opened the door. "Can we talk like brothers? We stopped being that when you stole from my child." His smile vanished. "You always needed a villain, and you always volunteered." He held up the folder. "I have records too. Texts where you said you couldn't handle things, messages about forgetting bills, photos of the house neglected. I have Mom willing to testify that June worried about you." June recorded her own wishes. Something flickered in his eyes. Fear, maybe, or hatred with its mask removed. "June was dying," he said. "Dying people get paranoid." I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me, keeping him away from the house, from Emily, from anything still clean. "You don't get to rewrite her. I kept this family afloat for years. You think Mom's house repairs paid for themselves? Ray's medical bills, Paige's divorce lawyer. Everyone came to me. Everyone. And when I needed help, suddenly I was the monster." There it was. The moral accounting of a man who believed favors were investments in future obedience. "You could have asked." He laughed bitterly. "You had nothing. June had everything locked away for a child who won't know what to do with it. She's 12. Exactly. 12. Not a queen, not a saint. Just a kid with an asset everybody treated like a shrine." The cruelty landed, but not where he aimed. It clarified him. "What did you do with the cash withdrawals?" He looked toward Melissa's car. "Aaron." His voice dropped. "There are people you don't understand. People who don't wait for probate petitions." "Who?" "Drop the hearing. Let me restructure. I'll make Emily whole." "You can't." "I can if you stop Lydia." Behind me, the door opened. Emily stood there holding June's old phone. "No," she said. "You don't get more time with my mom's money." Aaron stared at her, as if she had broken a rule by having a voice. Then he said the sentence that ensured I would never pity him again. "Your mother made you too sentimental to be rich." Emily's hand trembled, but she did not cry. "And Grandma made you too spoiled to be honest." Aaron left without another word. I saved Aaron's porch visit recording in 3 places. Once, that would have felt paranoid. Now it felt like hygiene. Lies had contaminated everything they touched, and documentation was the only clean water I had left to wash with. June's phone had recorded everything. The courthouse smelled like old paper and fear, dressed as furniture polish. Aaron arrived with an attorney named Grant Bell, who wore a silver tie and the expression of a man paid to make facts feel rude. Melissa sat behind them. My mother sat behind Melissa. Uncle Ray sat at the aisle, arms folded, already glaring at me like I had betrayed them by refusing to be robbed politely. Paige arrived last and sat behind Lydia. Aaron noticed. His head turned slowly. Paige lowered her eyes but stayed where she was. Judge Holt entered without drama. She had gray hair, rimless glasses, and no patience for throat clearing. Lydia spoke first, laying out the forged resignation, contested sale, trust amendment, video evidence, and money transfers. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Each sentence placed another brick on Aaron's chest. Grant Bell responded with concern. He described me as devastated, overwhelmed, inconsistent. He presented screenshots of texts where I had admitted to forgetting bills, needing help, feeling lost after June's death. He used my grief as if it were a confession. Then he said, Mr. Reed's brother stepped in during a crisis to preserve value for the minor beneficiary. Any technical deficiencies should be viewed in that context. Technical deficiencies. Lydia stood. Your Honor, practicing a forged signature while wearing gloves is not a technical deficiency. The courtroom went silent. Grant objected. Judge Holt overruled him before he finished inhaling. Lydia played the clip. I did not watch Aaron. I watched my mother. At first, she stared at the screen with rigid disbelief, as if loyalty could change pixels. Then Aaron's voice filled the courtroom. Danny doesn't fight. He absorbs. That's what makes him useful. My mother's face folded. Not completely. Not enough. But something in her finally looked at him without the golden light. Then came Melissa's voice. Mom will back us. Ray too. Paige is weak. She'll fold. Uncle Ray swore under his breath. Paige began to cry silently. When the clip ended, Grant Bell asked for time to review authenticity. Judge Holt looked at him over her glasses. You may review it after I ensure the minor beneficiary's assets stop disappearing. She froze all accounts connected to Millstone Growth Partners, enjoined Aaron and Melissa from transferring property, ordered Bridgeview Realty and the closing attorney to preserve all records, and temporarily reinstated me as sole trustee, pending a full evidentiary hearing. Then she turned to Aaron. Mr. Reed, if you contact the minor child directly or indirectly about this matter, I will treat it as witness intimidation. Do you understand? Aaron's mouth tightened. Yes, Your Honor. Outside the courtroom, my mother reached for my sleeve. Daniel. I stepped back. She looked wounded, which might have worked on me a week earlier. Did you know about the forged signature? I asked. Her lips trembled. Not like that. That's not an answer. I knew he needed help. I didn't know he had gone that far. You didn't want to know. Behind her, Aaron was arguing with Grant. Melissa was on the phone, whispering fiercely. Uncle Ray walked away without looking at anyone. Paige approached me, shaking. I have something, she said. Aaron made me record a statement last month saying June wanted him involved. He told me if I didn't, he'd tell my ex where I moved. I still have his messages. Lydia's eyes sharpened. Aaron looked over and saw Paige speaking to us. Grant Bell never called me a bad father directly. He did something more effective. He arranged my grief into exhibits and let implication do the cutting. I had to sit still while private pain became public strategy, and that discipline felt like holding broken glass in my mouth. For the first time, he looked outnumbered. Paige came to our house that evening with a grocery bag full of fear. Inside were 2 burner phones, a stack of printed messages, and a small audio recorder wrapped in a dish towel. She placed everything on my kitchen table, then sat with her hands tucked between her knees like a child waiting for punishment. I should have told you sooner, she said. I wanted to be angry. A clean anger would have been easier. But Paige looked like someone who had been carrying a live wire for weeks. Lydia arrived 10 minutes later. Emily stayed upstairs, though I knew she was sitting near the vent where sound traveled. Paige explained that Aaron had contacted her 2 days after June's funeral. At first, he framed it as family support. He needed Paige to confirm June had once discussed adding him as co-trustee. Not a lie exactly, he said, just context. Then he needed her to record a statement. Then he needed her to sign a declaration. When Paige hesitated, Aaron sent a screenshot of her new apartment address. Her ex-husband had been violent. Aaron knew that. We all knew that. He wrote, I would hate for loose ends to find you, Paige whispered. Lydia's pen stopped moving. He put that in writing. Paige nodded and handed over a phone. Aaron's cruelty had always survived by staying deniable. This time, desperation had made him stupid. The audio recorder contained a conversation from the week before the sale. Aaron's voice was clear. June is gone. Daniel is useless. Emily is a child. Somebody has to make adult choices. Paige asked, "What if the trust says you can't?" Aaron laughed. "Paper says what the person holding it can afford to prove." I looked at Lydia. Even she seemed impressed by the arrogance. Then Paige said something I did not expect. There was another man, not Voss, someone Aaron owed. He came to Mom's house in April. I heard them arguing in the garage. Aaron kept saying the farmhouse sale would clear the balance. The man said if it didn't, Melissa's boutique wouldn't be the only thing he burned. "Did you see him?" Lydia asked. "Only from upstairs. Big man, shaved head, tattoo on his neck. Ray called him Mercer. Uncle Ray knew." The web widened. After Lydia left with the evidence, Paige remained at the table, staring at a scratch in the wood. "June knew I was scared of Aaron," she said. "Not because he yelled, because he smiled when people cried. She told me once, 'Your fear is information, don't let anyone call it drama.' I still let him use me." I sat across from her. He used everyone. Not everyone gave him keys. There was no comforting that. Some guilt has to breathe before it can shrink. Upstairs, Emily came down holding a blanket and put it around Paige's shoulders. "Mom would still want you safe," Emily said. Paige broke then, not dramatically, but completely. She folded forward and sobbed into her hands while my daughter stood beside her, offering mercy that none of the adults had earned. Later, after Paige fell asleep on the couch, Emily asked me, "Do people like Uncle Aaron ever stop?" I looked at the burner phones on the table, the evidence bags, the copy of June's letter. "Not by themselves," I said. That was the truth. Paige kept apologizing for the same thing in different words. "Sorry for being scared. Sorry for not calling. Sorry for letting June's name be used." Lydia finally told her that testimony was not a time machine. It could not fix yesterday, but it could stop tomorrow from being built on the same lie. Men like Aaron do not stop because they feel remorse. They stop when the doors close. Mercer found me before I found him. 2 nights after the hearing, a black pickup followed me from Emily's school to the grocery store, then from the grocery store to the pharmacy. I noticed it because grief had made me quiet, not blind. The truck stayed 3 cars back, never turning when it should have, never passing when it could. I called Lydia from the parking lot. "Do not drive home," she said. "Go to the police station. Emily is with me." Her voice sharpened. "Then definitely go to the police station." The pickup followed until I turned toward the station. Then it accelerated past us. As it did, Emily saw the driver. "Tattoo," she whispered. A dark shape curled above his collar. "Mercer." The police took a report with the energy of men hoping paperwork would replace action. But Lydia knew someone in the state attorney general's office. And the trust fraud involving a minor had become more interesting now that intimidation entered the room. By morning, investigators connected Mercer to a private lending operation already under scrutiny for coercive collection tactics. Aaron had borrowed against projected proceeds from a sale he did not legally control. The farmhouse was not just theft. It was collateral for panic. When Lydia explained it, I felt almost dizzy from the layers. Aaron had stolen Emily's house because he owed dangerous people money. He had involved Melissa because her boutique had debts too. He had involved Judge Voss to launder the paperwork with respectability. He had involved my mother through guilt, Uncle Ray through favors, Paige through fear, me through grief. Every person had been a tool, every relationship a handle. That afternoon, Uncle Ray called. I almost ignored it. Lydia advised recording all conversations, so I answered on speaker. Ray's voice sounded rough. "Danny, we need to meet." "No, I'm trying to help you. Start by telling Lydia everything." He cursed. Lawyers turn family problems into prison sentences. Aaron turned Emily's inheritance into debt payment. Ray went quiet. Then he said, "Mercer isn't patient. If Aaron goes down, he talks. If he talks, names come out that shouldn't. Yours." Silence. "Ray, I introduced them," he said. "That's all. Aaron needed short-term capital. Mercer lends to contractors, developers. I didn't know he was using the farmhouse. Did you know the trust documents were forged? I knew Voss was helping. I didn't ask how. Another man who confused, not asking with not knowing. Tell Lydia," I said. "If I do, Aaron will say I planned it." "Did you?" His breath rattled through the phone. "Your brother is not the only one who can ruin people," he said, and hung up. I sent the recording to Lydia. At dinner, Emily barely touched her food. She kept glancing toward the windows. I installed cameras that night, real ones, not hidden in clocks. Sarah and Luke offered to let us stay at the farmhouse, but I refused. The house was evidence now, not refuge. At midnight, an unknown number texted a photograph of our front door. Beneath it were 4 words, "Drop it, grieving man." Emily stood behind me and read it before I could hide the screen. Her face went white. For the first time, she looked afraid not of losing the past, but of what the truth might cost us in the present. I called Lydia. This time, she did not say let him panic. That night, I packed emergency bags with the numb efficiency of someone preparing for a storm he could not name. Emily put June's letter in hers. I put copies of the evidence in mine. It occurred to me that Aaron had turned inheritance into survival gear. She said, "Now we make them panic faster." Aaron made his first public mistake at church. My mother insisted on attending Sunday service as if routine could bleach scandal. Aaron walked in beside her, Melissa on his arm, wearing the humble expression of a man enduring false accusations with grace. People turned, whispered, offered careful nods. In small towns, court filings travel faster than weather. I had not planned to go. Emily asked too. Mom liked the choir, she said, so we sat 3 rows behind Aaron. The sermon was about forgiveness, which nearly made me laugh. Reverend Cole spoke about mercy, pride, and the danger of hard hearts. My mother dabbed her eyes at exactly the right moments. Aaron bowed his head. Melissa squeezed his hand. Then, during the announcements, Aaron stood. "Reverend," he said, voice trembling just enough, "may I say something?" The room tightened. Reverend Cole hesitated, then nodded. Aaron turned to the congregation. "My family is going through a painful misunderstanding. Grief has made some of us suspicious of love offered in good faith. I only ask that you pray for my niece, Emily, who is being pulled into adult bitterness when she deserves peace." A low murmur moved through the pews. Emily's hand found mine. Aaron looked directly at her with wet eyes manufactured for witnesses. "Sweetheart, your mother would never want you used as a weapon." Something inside me snapped forward, but Emily stood before I could. She was small in June's old blue dress, hair pinned unevenly because I had never learned to do it right. Her voice shook, but it carried. "My mother made a video. She said she didn't trust you." The sanctuary went silent. Aaron's face froze. Emily continued. "You sold her house. You put $500 in my trust. You told my dad Mom didn't trust him, but she did. You told everyone he was crazy because he was sad. Being sad isn't the same as being stupid." No one moved. Then Mrs. Bellamy, who had taught Sunday school for 40 years, whispered, "Lord have mercy." Aaron tried to laugh softly. "Emily, sweetheart, this is exactly what I mean. You've been coached." Reverend Cole stepped down from the pulpit. "Aaron, sit down." Aaron's mask slipped. "You don't know what's going on. I know a child just asked you to stop speaking for her mother. Sit down." Melissa tugged Aaron's sleeve, but he pulled away. His eyes scanned the room and found faces no longer arranged in his favor. That was the thing about public sympathy. It spoiled quickly when a child told the truth plainly. After service, people surrounded Emily, not with questions, but with quiet apologies. Mrs. Bellamy brought her a tissue. Reverend Cole asked me to send Lydia his name as a witness to Aaron's statement. My mother stood near the doors, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. "She shouldn't have done that," she said when I approached. "Aaron shouldn't have forced her to. She's a child." Then stopped making her defend herself from adults. Mom looked past me at Emily, surrounded by women who had known June since high school. For once, my mother was not the center of the family's grief. For once, Aaron's tears had no audience left to buy them. Outside, Melissa caught up to me by the car. Her voice was low and urgent. "Aaron is going to run." I turned. She swallowed. The church had known Aaron's public face for decades. Generous at auctions, charming at funerals, first to lift heavy tables after potlucks. Watching that face fail under Emily's plain words taught me something brutal. Reputations are just stories communities agree not to fact-check until someone brave enough interrupts the service. And if he runs, he will take whatever money is left. Melissa asked to meet at a diner 20 miles away, far enough that gossip would need gas money. Lydia came with me and sat in the booth like a silent verdict. Melissa arrived wearing sunglasses, though it was raining. Without makeup, she looked younger and meaner, not softened by fear but stripped of polish. "I'm not doing this for you," she said before sitting. I assumed. She slid a flash drive across the table. Aaron kept copies of everything. Transfers, lender agreements, messages with Voss, recordings of your mother agreeing to support the trustee change if things got ugly. He said backups were insurance. Lydia did not touch the drive. Why give it to us? Melissa removed her sunglasses. One eye was bruised yellow at the edge. I went still. Aaron did that. A cabinet door, she said automatically, then laughed without humor. Listen to me lying for him even now. Lydia's voice softened. Do you need protection? Melissa looked away. I need a deal. There it was. Not redemption, negotiation. She admitted she knew the documents were fraudulent after the fact, helped route funds through her cousin's LLC, and used some money for the boutique. She claimed Aaron told her he had verbal authority from June and that the paperwork was only catching up to reality. Lydia listened, expression unreadable. You were on video saying Daniel doesn't fight, I said. Melissa met my eyes. Because Aaron said it every day. He studied you. He studied all of us. He knew exactly who needed guilt, who needed flattery, who needed fear. And what did you need? Her mouth tightened. A lifestyle I couldn't afford. At least it was honest. The flash drive contained more than we expected. Spreadsheets, scanned checks, voice memos, photos of signed blank notary sheets bearing Judge Voss's seal. The most damning file was a recording of Aaron and Voss discussing my supposed resignation. Voss said, a grieving widower won't survive cross-examination. Keep the narrative clean. Overwhelmed father, concerned uncle, asset preservation. Aaron replied, and if June left something? Voss laughed. Dead women don't testify. I had to stand and walk outside into the rain. There are sentences, so evil they make you feel foolish, forever believing in ordinary decency. Lydia found me under the diner's awning. This changes everything, she said. Voss is done, Aaron too. Melissa is trying to save herself, but her evidence is useful. June should be here. She is, Lydia said, holding up the flash drive. In every precaution he underestimated. When we returned to the booth, Melissa was crying. Not loudly, not beautifully, just sitting with tears dripping onto untouched coffee. He said he loved me because I understood winning, she whispered. But he doesn't love anyone. He collects leverage and calls it intimacy. I thought of my mother, Paige, Uncle Ray, me, even Emily. All of us reduced to pressure points in Aaron's private map. Before Melissa left, she looked at me. He has passports, cash, a storage unit in Hadley. If you want what's left, move today. Lydia was already dialing investigators. By sunset, the state police had a warrant for the storage unit. Inside, they found $82,000, June's original trust binder, 3 forged notary stamps, and a small velvet box containing my wife's engagement ring. Aaron had taken it from the bank box. Not for money. I did not forgive Melissa in that diner. I did not even like her. But I believed her fear, because it had none of the decorative shine Aaron put on his suffering. She was not confessing to become good. She was confessing because the monster had finally turned around inside the cage they built together. For control. They returned June's ring in a plastic evidence bag. I hated that most of all. Not the money trail, not the forged seal, not even Aaron's voice saying dead women don't testify through another man's laughter. It was the ring sealed in plastic with a barcode, as if our first promise had become an item number. Emily held it at the kitchen table, the bag crinkling in her hands. Why would he take this? She asked. I could have said greed, but the ring was not worth enough compared to the house. I could have said sentiment, but Aaron did not keep memories. He kept trophies. Because your mom loved it, I said. And he wanted to own everything people loved. Emily stared at it. Can we bury it with her? We can. Not yet, she said. I want it in court first. I want people to see he stole from her, even after she was gone. That was my daughter now. 12 years old, learning evidentiary value where she should have been learning summer boredom. The full hearing was set for Friday. Lydia warned us it would be uglier than the emergency session. Aaron's attorney had withdrawn. His new counsel signaled they might argue coercion by Mercer, diminished judgment, family misunderstanding, anything to blur intention. But evidence had multiplied. Paige's threats, Melissa's files, Ray's recorded admission, the church statement, the storage unit, the notary stamps, the call to Voss, the cash, the ring. Aaron's story was no longer cracking. It was collapsing inward. My mother called every night. I did not answer. She left messages that evolved from commands to apologies to warnings. First, Daniel, you need to think about what prison will do to your brother. Then, I should have asked more questions. Then, if Aaron feels cornered, he may do something foolish. The last message came at 2:13 a.m. He came by tonight. He was crying. He said you took everything. I told him to turn himself in. He laughed. Daniel, lock your doors. I was already awake when headlights washed across the living room wall. The cameras pinged my phone. A figure moved near the garage. I called 911, then Lydia, then went upstairs to Emily's room. She was sitting up in bed, eyes wide. Closet, I whispered. Dad, now. Glass shattered downstairs. I had never owned a gun. June hated them. I grabbed the baseball bat Sarah had given us and stood at the top of the stairs while someone moved through the kitchen below. Aaron's voice rose in the dark. Danny, I know you're here. He sounded drunk, or broken, or both. You turned my wife against me, he called. My mother, my church, my family, you always do this. You stand there looking wounded until everyone gives you what should have been mine. The old childhood script, now armed with desperation. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Aaron heard them too. He appeared at the foot of the stairs, holding June's brass clock. He must have taken it from the farmhouse before Sarah stopped him, or maybe he had bought another. In the dark, it looked like a grotesque offering. She watched me, he said. Even dead, she watched me. Then he raised the clock and smashed it against the banister until brass pieces scattered like teeth. The front door burst open behind him. Aaron dropped to his knees before anyone touched him. Not in surrender, in performance. He made me do it, he sobbed as officers surrounded him. My brother ruined me. From the closet behind me, Emily whispered, Don't let him make that true. I didn't. When the officers searched the broken glass, one found a tiny gear from the clock under the radiator. Emily asked to keep it. I almost said no, then understood. She did not want a souvenir of fear. She wanted proof that even smashed things could still explain how they worked. I lowered the bat. Aaron came to court in a gray suit and handcuffs. His attorney requested they be removed so the civil proceeding would not prejudice the judge. Judge Holt allowed it but warned Aaron that any outburst would end his participation. He nodded solemnly, already rebuilding himself for the room. It almost worked. For the first hour, he looked diminished. A brother under stress. A businessman cornered by bad loans. A man who made terrible decisions but loved his niece. His attorney spoke of pressure from Mercer, confusion after June's death, unclear family conversations, and a desperate attempt to preserve value. Then Lydia called Emily. I objected in my heart, but not aloud. Emily had asked to speak. Lydia had prepared her carefully. Judge Holt spoke to her gently and reminded everyone that the witness was a child. Emily sat straight, hands folded. Lydia asked, What did the farmhouse mean to you? Emily looked at Aaron, then at the judge. It was where my mom sounded happiest. The courtroom shifted. Did anyone explain the sale to you before it happened? No. Uncle Aaron said later it was for my future. But he didn't ask what future I wanted. What did your mother say in the video? Aaron's attorney objected. Judge Holt allowed Emily to answer based on her recollection. Emily's voice stayed steady. She said she trusted my dad. She said she did not trust Uncle Aaron with money, paperwork, or me. Aaron looked down, not from shame, from calculation. Then Lydia placed June's ring on the evidence table, still sealed. Do you recognize this? Emily's composure faltered. It's my mom's ring. She let me try it on when her fingers got too thin. She said someday I could keep it if Dad was ready. Lydia asked where it had been found. In Uncle Aaron's storage unit, with money and fake stamps. The simplicity destroyed him better than any legal argument. My mother began crying behind us. Paige held her own hands so tightly her knuckles whitened. Melissa, testifying under limited immunity negotiations, described the LLC transfers. Uncle Ray invoked his right against self-incrimination so often that Judge Holt eventually told him the pattern was noted. Then the video played again. This time, Aaron had to sit through all of it in a room that no longer belonged to his version of events. At the end, Judge Holt issued findings from the bench. The trustee resignation was fraudulent. The sale authorization was voidable due to forged authority. Aaron and Melissa had breached fiduciary duties they never legally held but falsely claimed. Assets remained frozen. A receiver would trace funds. The trust would be restored under my sole trusteeship, with Lydia appointed special monitor until Emily turned 18. Criminal referrals were already underway. As for the farmhouse, Judge Holt did not punish Sarah and Luke, who had bought in good faith. Instead, she ordered the title dispute into mediation with restitution options funded from recovered assets and Aaron's property. Emily cried at that part quietly. Losing the house twice hurt differently when the law said you were right, but could not easily give back what fraud had passed to innocent hands. After court, Aaron asked to speak to me. His attorney advised against it. Aaron insisted. 2 deputies stood nearby. He looked at me with red eyes and whispered, "Was it worth it?" I thought of June's letter, Emily's testimony, the ring in plastic, the years I had mistaken peacekeeping for goodness. "Ask your niece when she's 25, I said. Judge Holt never smiled, but when Emily stepped down, she paused long enough for the room to feel the weight of what had been asked of a child. No ruling could give Emily back the months stolen from her. Still, the law had finally done one decent thing. It listened without telling her to be polite. For once, he had no answer. Justice did not feel like winning. People imagine revenge as a clean flame. They imagine the villain exposed, the room gasping, the innocent vindicated, and some final music rising as the world corrects itself. But after court, I still woke at 3 in the morning reaching for June. Emily still flinched when unknown cars slowed near our house. The farmhouse still belonged, for now, to Sarah and Luke, who had done nothing wrong except trust documents with official seals. Aaron was indicted 2 weeks later on fraud, forgery, theft from a minor, witness intimidation, and conspiracy charges. Judge Voss resigned from 2 charitable boards before anyone asked him to. Uncle Ray's name appeared in a separate investigation involving Mercer. Melissa's boutique closed with brown paper over the windows. My mother stopped going to church. She came to my house once and stood at the edge of the driveway because I would not let her inside. She looked smaller without certainty, older without Aaron's greatness to polish. "I failed you," she said. I waited. She swallowed. "I failed Emily, I failed June. I loved your brother wrong." It was the closest she had ever come to truth without adding a defense. "Yes," I said. She closed her eyes as if the word physically struck her. "Can I see Emily?" "Not until she asks to see you. I'm her grandmother." Then start acting like someone who protects her instead of someone entitled to her forgiveness. Mom nodded, tears falling. For once she did not argue. For once sorrow did not become a weapon in her hands. Sarah and Luke offered something unexpected. They had decided they could not live in the farmhouse after everything. The court receiver negotiated a rescission, recovered funds, Aaron's seized assets, and Bridgeview's insurance would unwind the sale. It took paperwork, appraisals, and months of legal pressure, but the house would return to Emily's trust. When Lydia told us, Emily sat down on the office floor and cried harder than she had cried in court. "Can we go there?" she asked. "When you're ready." "No," she said. "When you're ready too." We went the next Saturday. The sold sign was gone. The porch needed paint. The maple leaves had turned gold. Inside, the office shelves looked bare where evidence had been removed. But the room still held June's stubbornness, like sunlight trapped in dust. Emily placed the engagement ring on the desk. "Not buried yet," she said. "Mom built safeguards. She didn't hide because she was afraid. She hid things so we'd have a way back." I stood beside her, unable to speak. We did not move back in. Not then. The house needed repairs, legal transfer, and emotional permission. But we opened windows. We swept broken dust. We planted white tulips under the kitchen window. That night, Emily asked if trust could grow back. I thought about my mother, Paige, Lydia, Sarah, and Luke. "June, not in the same shape," I said, "but maybe stronger in the places we stop lying." Emily considered that. "Then Uncle Aaron didn't destroy trust," she said. "He just showed us where it was fake." I looked at my daughter, hearing June in the clean edge of her sentence. The first time we unlocked the farmhouse after the order, I expected triumph and found dust. Dust on the window sills, dust in the pantry, dust on the stair rail June had sanded smooth. Victory, I realized, still requires cleaning up after the people who made the mess. "Yes," I said, "exactly." Aaron wrote Emily a letter from jail. The envelope arrived through his attorney, sealed, formal, and offensive in its carefulness. Lydia reviewed it first. She called me afterward, voice tight. "He does not threaten her directly, but it is manipulative. You do not have to give it to her." I asked for a copy. It began, "My sweet niece, someday you will understand that adults sometimes carry burdens children cannot see." By By the second paragraph, he had transformed theft into sacrifice. By the third, he blamed Mercer. By the fourth, he described me as a loving but fragile man poisoned by Lydia's ambition. He ended by saying June would want Emily to remember him kindly. Dead women don't testify, he once believed. But June had testified. On video, in documents, through every trap, she laid for a man who mistook kindness for weakness. I showed the letter to Emily because I had promised not to build protective cages out of silence. She read it at the kitchen table without speaking. Then she took out a pen and marked every sentence that made her feel guilty. There were many. "This is what he does," she said. "He makes you feel mean for noticing he hurt you." I wanted to frame that sentence and send it to every person in our family. "Do you want to respond?" I asked. "Yes, but not to him." She wrote a victim impact statement for the criminal case. Lydia helped format it but did not change the voice. Emily wrote about losing her mother, then losing the house, then learning adults had discussed her future like money on a table. She wrote that Aaron had not stolen wood and land. He had stolen the feeling that family meant safety. At Aaron's plea hearing, the prosecutor read part of it aloud. Aaron accepted a deal after Judge Voss agreed to cooperate. 7 years, with possibility of reduced time depending on restitution and testimony against Mercer. Melissa received probation and restitution obligations after testifying. Uncle Ray was charged separately. Judge Voss lost his license, reputation, and the soft landing he thought old connections guaranteed. When Aaron stood to speak, he performed remorse beautifully. He turned toward Emily. "I am sorry my choices caused pain." Emily leaned toward me and whispered. He apologized to his choices. She was right. He could not say, "I stole from you." He could not say, "I lied about your father." He could not say, "I used your dead mother as cover." Even at the end, he protected himself from the full shape of truth. Judge Holt, assigned also to sentencing due to related proceedings, seemed to notice. "Mr. Reed," she said, "remorse is not passive regret that consequences arrived. Remorse is ownership. I suggest you begin learning the difference." Aaron's face reddened. There he was again, briefly. Not broken, not sorry, just offended that the room refused his preferred lighting. After the hearing, Emily did not cry. She asked for pancakes. We went to the diner June loved. Paige met us there. Sarah and Luke sent flowers. Lydia ordered black coffee and pretended she had not grown attached to us. For the first time in months, Emily laughed at something small. It startled me. Joy after betrayal feels almost illegal at first, like you are disrespecting the pain by surviving it. But June had not built safes, letters, and hidden cameras, so we could remain frozen beside the damage. Pancakes became the strangest celebration imaginable. Emily drowned hers in syrup. Paige ordered fruit and ate none of it. Lydia reviewed emails between bites until Emily told her phones were banned at victory breakfasts. Lydia obeyed, which may have been the clearest proof that Emily had become formidable. She built a way through. We spent the winter teaching the farmhouse our names again. Every Saturday, Emily and I drove to Millstone Road with sandwiches, cleaning supplies, and one manageable goal. One week we repaired the pantry shelves. Another week we scraped peeling paint from the porch. Paige came when she could, usually with coffee and apology disguised as jokes. Lydia visited once to sign documents and ended up fixing a loose cabinet hinge with terrifying competence. The house stopped feeling like evidence. Slowly, it became a place again. Emily chose the office as her reading room. I thought that would be the hardest space, but she said it felt protected, not haunted. We replaced the broken brass clock with a simple wooden one. Under it, Emily placed a small framed note in June's handwriting. "Trust no one who rushes you. My mother asked to visit in February." Emily said yes, but only at the farmhouse, only for 1 hour, and only if I stayed. Mom arrived carrying white tulip bulbs, though the ground was still too hard. She did not hug Emily without asking. That mattered. She did not bring Aaron's name into the first 10 minutes. That mattered too. They sat at the kitchen table, where June had recorded her video. Mom cried. Emily watched. "I thought protecting Aaron was protecting the family," Mom said. "I was wrong. I made you pay for my blindness." Emily's face remained careful. "Why did you believe him over Dad?" Mom looked at me, then away. "Because your father tells the truth quietly. Aaron lies loudly. I mistook volume for need. It was not enough, but it was not nothing." Emily nodded. "I don't forgive you yet." Mom's mouth trembled. I understand. And if you ask again before I'm ready, I won't see you. I understand that too. After she left, Emily exhaled like she had held her breath for an hour. Was I mean? She asked. No, you were clear. People act like clear is mean. People who benefit from confusion do. She smiled faintly. That sounds like Mom. In March, restitution began. Not full, not fast, but real. Aaron's house was sold. Melissa's boutique assets liquidated. Insurance paid part of the title claim. The trust regained the farmhouse and a monitored account. Nothing erased what happened, but numbers began moving in the right direction for once. I kept working, kept parenting badly some days and better others, kept missing June in ordinary ambushes, a song at the hardware store, vanilla soap in aisle 6, Emily laughing with June's exact tilt of the head. On the first warm day of spring, we planted the tulip bulbs Mom had brought. Emily pressed dirt around each one carefully. Do you think Mom would hate what happened? She asked. Yes. Do you think she'd like who we became? I looked at the house, the repaired porch, the office window, my daughter with soil on her hands and boundaries in her spine. Yes, I said, very much. Some repairs were emotional in disguise. Tightening a hinge meant doors could close properly again. Replacing a lock meant entry required permission. Painting the porch meant the first thing visitors saw was care instead of damage. The house taught us boundaries with tools and weather. The farmhouse did not answer, but the wind moved through the maple branches like someone turning a page. 2 years later, Emily stood in the farmhouse kitchen on her 14th birthday, reading June's letter again. Not because she needed proof anymore, because some words become rituals when they save you. The trust was stable. The house was restored. Aaron was still in prison, though he had written twice more. Emily had not answered. My mother visited monthly and never mentioned forgiveness unless Emily did first. Paige had moved into a safer apartment and started training as a paralegal because, she said, fear had given her enough legal education to deserve a certificate. Life did not become simple. It became honest. That was better. For Emily's birthday, we invited a small group: Paige, Lydia, Sarah, and Luke, Reverend Cole, Mrs. Bellamy, and at Emily's request, my mother. We cooked June's rosemary chicken and burned the first tray of rolls. The kitchen filled with smoke, laughter, and the kind of noise that does not hide knives. After dinner, Emily asked everyone to come to the office. On the desk sat June's engagement ring, no longer in plastic. Beside it was the brass key from the recipe tin, framed in a shadow box. Underneath, Emily had placed a new label: Thunderstorm Things. She cleared her throat. I used to think trust meant believing people because they were family, she said. Then I thought trust meant never believing anyone. Mom helped me understand it's neither. Trust means giving people the truth and watching what they do with it. My mother covered her mouth. Emily looked at her not cruelly, just clearly. Some people failed. Some people came back and tried to repair it. Some people, like Dad, were sad and still showed up. Some people, like Mom, prepared for storms even when everyone told her not to worry. She picked up June's ring. I don't want this buried. Not yet. I want it kept here until I'm 25. Then I'll decide. That's what the trust was for, not money, not a house. Choice. Lydia blinked too many times and looked at the ceiling. I thought of Aaron asking if it was worth it. I thought of the courtroom, the forged signatures, the church, the smashed clock, the casserole in the trash. I thought of every moment I nearly chose peace over truth because peace looked kinder from far away. Emily placed the ring back on the desk and turned to me. Dad, yeah, thank you for not letting them make you into the person they said you were. That broke me more than any accusation ever had. I hugged her in the room where my brother had practiced stealing my name, where my wife had hidden the evidence that returned it to me, where my daughter now stood with a voice no one could notarize away. Outside, white tulips moved under the kitchen window. People say betrayal destroys trust. They are wrong. Betrayal destroys the counterfeit version. The polite silence, the forced loyalty, the family myths built over rot. What remains afterward is harder, smaller, and real. It does not ask you to ignore the locked door. It teaches you where the key is hidden. June had left us a house. Aaron tried to sell it, but the real inheritance was never the farmhouse, the money, or the ring. It was the courage to open the blue envelope. Before everyone left that night, Emily opened the office window. Cool air moved through the room, lifting the corner of June's framed note. Nobody spoke. We all watched that small motion as if June had answered, not with a ghostly sign, but with the ordinary physics of a house finally allowed to breathe. And when the storm finally came, we did.